Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Back. I am Mary and I am joined today by Dean Pearson. We are in Bowman, North Dakota. And I tell you what, stick around because there is a lot of information and a wealth of history that comes right out of this area and this town. Dean, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You know, when I came to this area, I know it because we've been here through rodeo, high school rodeo and that type of stuff, but this town has always fascinated me. So why don't we get started? Tell us the history of Bowman, North Dakota.
Well, Bowman, North Dakota was founded as the railroad came in. It was in 1907 that the railroad came in here and they had their lot sale for the town. The town went through a series of name changes from Twin Buttes to Loudon and finally to Bowman, which was named after a railroad executive. And it's been growing ever since. It's become a regional area here for commerce and agriculture and all sorts of tourism ventures, if you want to call it that, in various different aspects.
Well, wonderful. You know, I had a little bit of history. It said it was created in 1883 initially, but then in 1903, there was lack of settlement, so then it regenerated itself again with Mr. Bowman. So that's kind of exciting too. It's great information, history that we don't always know. So it was an official proclamation on June 10th, 1907. Do you guys celebrate that date?
We did celebrate in 2007. We did celebrate the 100th anniversary, and it just so happened that it coincided with a new addition to the courthouse. So we had a big celebration on the lawn of the courthouse, and then the community here also did a celebration at the same time with a school reunion and different activities in town.
Wonderful. So you have a lot of history about the city itself. Why don't you just kind of tell our viewers what's so important or some of the back history of Bowman?
Well, I mean, Bowman itself is sort of a unique town in the sense that it's located at a crossroads of two highways. So we get a lot of traffic that comes through and little different opportunities. But the county itself really has more history than the city of Bowman itself does. And there's been some residents of the city of Bowman that have some unique history, but the county itself has got a lot of early history, especially when it comes to talking about the explorers that came through here and the early trails that came through here, especially back in the times when the military was active in the late 1800s. We have a lot of activity from explorers from Verendrye, which possibly could have traveled through here in the 1740s, all the way up to when they were trying to put an end to the ghost dance uprising in the late 1800s and basically 1890-91. So there's about 26 different trails that come through here, various different explorers, or through this region that surrounds or is neighbors to Bowman County.
So when you talk about different trails, we're talking wagon train trails, we're talking exploration, railroad exploration.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at some of the early exploration that came through here, Father de Smet came through here in the 1860s. We had different explorers that come through, like I said, Verendrye when he was looking to find the Black Hills or the Bighorn Mountains. You had the railroad explorations that came through here in 1870s, 1871 up north of us. 1872 came through Bowman County and Slope County, which is our neighbor to the north. And also the 1873 exploration came through Slope County to the north. So we had some railroad explorations that came through. Wagon trains, the Fisk wagon train that went to Fort Dills in 1864. Fort Dills wasn't per se a fort, but it was an area where when they were attacked by the Native Americans, they formed a circle of wagons and built up some sod protection around it.
Right, and we do have another segment about Fort Dills. We're going to have Kevin Heinrich on to talk about Fort Dills, and he gave me a tour earlier today. Fascinating information, just all right here. So then, as far as the industry, it's right now, is it pretty much farming, ranching? What is the industry in the area?
The industry in the area consists of farming and ranching primarily, but we've also been lucky enough in the past to have an open pit coal mine, which we provided power to Big Stone Power Plant in South Dakota out of here, the coal. That was closed down in the early 1990s. We also have a lot of oil and gas exploration here, especially to the west of us, in and around the Badlands area and south of town. So we've been very fortunate to have something to support agriculture.
So this area also is pretty historic for the size of the ranches. I'm right here in your Pioneer Trails Museum. You have quite a display about the different ranches, up to 25 to 35,000 head of cattle on one ranch. And also President Roosevelt was also in this area, and he would stay and do a little bit of hunting, I hear.
He would do hunting, but he was also participate in the roundups when he was here because everything was open range at the time. So everybody got together from the ranches and provided some men to go out and help with the roundup. But yeah, this area here, especially along the Little Missouri Breaks, was an area where the trails from the south brought cattle up to the north, and a lot of the people that came up with the cattle drives stayed here because they knew the grass and the weather and everything was conducive to good cattle raising. And so a lot of the early ranches that started up in the 1800s, some of them are still in effect today under different owners, but are still active today.
Sure. And then we talk about a roundup. Basically, back then, there were no fences, and so people branded their cattle. And so you round them all up and kind of separate who goes where.
That's correct.
Right.
That's
and
correct.
So, and now even today, branding in the spring is pretty much a big deal.
That is. Everybody still does it pretty much the old way. If they can, I mean, it's getting to be fewer and fewer because of the lack of help, and the young people are moving away a lot of times, so it makes it a little harder, but a lot of people still do the branding the old way, yes.
Well, and I think a lot back then, people had 8, 10 kids, and now maybe just 2 to 4. 4 is a big family, so you don't have the manpower. You don't have the ranches a mile apart or the farms a mile apart where they each have a house full of kids to help with that type of stuff.
That's correct.
Right. So you had given me some articles earlier today too. Anything else you want to share about Bowman or Bowman County?
Well, some of the interesting things that's happened here that a lot of people don't know about are some of the stories that were talked about in the newspaper but sort of fall through the cracks as time goes on. There was a gentleman that worked for the Milwaukee Railroad here in town whose grandfather was a cousin to Mark Twain. Nice. And so they came in. Mark Twain didn't come and visit, but Mark Twain's cousin was here. We also have an individual who was a daughter of someone that lived here in town that actually ended up becoming Miss America in 1943. So that was an interesting story in 1943. Also, we have the Medora-Deadwood stage line that ran through here. And when the railroad was up in the Dickinson-Medora area, the Rapid City and the Black Hills did not have railroad, so everybody came north on the coach line. And so the niece of President Garfield, who lived in or was in Spearfish at the time, the body was actually carried here through us on coach that came through. So I mean, there's interesting stories like that, but probably the one that's the most interesting is that there was a baker in town in 1913 that actually wanted to send a Jewish wedding cake to the daughter of President Wilson. And they actually sent it by parcel post on the railroad, and it was delivered to the White House, and they actually served it at the White House.
Boy, you couldn't do that today. Dean, I want to thank you for coming today and telling us the history of Bowman. We just simply ran out of time, and we'll catch you after this on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Women's Way, Gooseneck Implement, Nodak Insurance of Bowman, Sarah Martin.
My name is Dr. Jill Steinley, and I'm a gynecologist. As a gynecologist, I see women for their preventative health care visits, and an important part of that is doing routine breast cancer and cervical cancer screening. It's important for women to have regular breast and cervical cancer screening to identify cancers early when they're most curable, and ensure that you're around for many years to enjoy your family and your loved ones and be there for them.
Are you looking for an exciting opportunity to gain work experience while having your college tuition paid? Our new virtual John Deere Ag Tech program provides specialized hands-on education after learning the tools of the trade from an agricultural industry leader. Students in the program will work full-time at Gooseneck Implement, receive full-time benefits while taking online classes during evenings and weekends. You can even have your college tuition paid back after 4 years.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: St. Charles Catholic Church, Bowman Chiropractic Clinic, Bowman Sales and Service. My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Woodley's Construction Supply, Pro Point Cooperative, Pfeiffer's Auctioneers of Bowman.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I am visiting with Kevin Heinrich here at the Pioneer Trail Museum in Bowman, North Dakota. So excited to be here again. Kevin, you gave me a quick little tour of Fort Dills today, and it is fascinating. If you have, I'm talking to the viewers, if you have never been to Bowman, North Dakota, you got to be here because there's so much history. So why don't you just kind of give us the Cliff Note version of Fort Dills?
Fort Dills. Okay, it's not really a fort, it's more of a fortification, like Dean had mentioned earlier. They threw up an embankment to protect themselves from the attacking Native Americans. But it all started back in 1862, really, in Minnesota, the Minnesota Uprising. And I will try to keep this brief. But anyway, Fisk would run 2 wagon trains out to the goldfields, out to Fort Benton, Montana, headed for the goldfields of Idaho. And that took the safer route up around by Williston and that way around the north and east part of the Missouri River. Well, anyway, he thought he could save some time and wanted to come take a shorter route through our area, which was uncharted. They did not exactly know what was out here because there wasn't many explorers that had been through here. Well, he gets to Fort Rice, which was being built at the time in 1864, about July, and was promised a military escort. Well, Sully, General Sully, who was with to attack the Indians up in Kildare Mountains prior to that, had a wagon train in tow, and so there wasn't many men left at Fort Rice to escort him. But Fisk had convinced Colonel Dill to give him at least 50 men, and off they went. They got ferried across the Missouri over to Fort Rice, and then they took off, followed the Cannonball River up, come through about where New England, North Dakota is now, over to Amadon, and then they veered southwest, presumably to kind of miss the breaks, the Missouri breaks, as they get less as they come to the southwest. They got to a point where it was Deep Creek, and one of the first wagons come through was actually one of Fisk's wagons. There was about 100 wagons in this whole wagon train, upset. And the rest of the wagon train kept going on, and they left one wagon back when a bunch of men come back to help right this wagon that got upset. And here come the Native Americans in the first attack. Sitting Bull was actually in the first attack at Deep Creek, not too far north of Bowman here. Well, it's kind of a, I say, made-for-a-movie event. They got help, got sent back. Jefferson Dills, which the place is named after, Fort Dills, come barreling in with guns blazing and drove the Indians back with support behind him, I presume. And the Indians had killed, I forget the number right now, but about 5 soldiers and some teamsters in this, and wounded others. Well, they picked them up, hauled them back to where they camped. The wagons had stopped because of the Indian attack, and buried them there and concealed the graves so the graves wouldn't be found by the Native Americans. And then they continued on. They got about as far, about 1.5 miles north of where the fort position is at now, or where the location is at, I should say. And they left, some group left some hardtack with or crackers or bread, whatever you want to call it, with strychnine. And a bunch of Indians ate it after they moved on and died of it. It was not good. But they got to the top of the hill where the location's at right now. It's actually right on just into Bowman County. The Slope County line is just on the north side of the road there. But they poisoned them, and
They just weren't real excited to be poisoned,
Well,
so they lost a
it
few,
made
so
them-
they're probably not feeling the best and really want to get back at these
Well,
settlers.
they were wanting to get back too because Sully had routed them out of the Kildare Mountains. It killed a good amount of them and burnt all their winter reserves.
Wow.
So they were on the move, trying to find friends and find more food just for the winter. And they come across this wagon train that should not have been through this area. He should have went the northern route like he was told. But it says in the diaries that Fisk had actually taken it on himself to take this route. and a lot of the Teamsters and wagon people did not know that he was doing this. Well, they got out here. Anyway, they curled up, threw up a sod fortification around them, and sent like 15 runners back to Fort Rice for help, and they all made it. That's
So
an interesting story.
how did they do the fortification? Tell us
Well,
that
they
part.
shovels, I think they had some plows with, and plowed up ground sod chunks and built this fortification around them.
So the fortification stood about maybe 4, 5,
I
10
would
feet high?
presume that
Maybe 8 feet, or do we know?
The picture out there shows that it's quite high, but I don't believe that's quite true, because you couldn't shoot over that. You'd want to see what's coming at you. You'd want some, like, breastworks where you could probably lean over and defend yourself, you know, so.
Right.
But anyway, the runners got to Fort Rice without being caught, and they sent out, General Sully come back from after his attack on Killdeer Mountains, with his men were pretty well wore out. And he was upset with Colonel Dill for letting them go. And now he had to send out 800 men to rescue this party, and they did
boy.
not know if they were alive or what. But they got out here and rescued them all and took them back.
Wow.
A couple interesting other points of this story is there was a gal by the name of Fanny Kelly who was, in July of 1864, was taken captive down by Douglas, Wyoming. And they brought her back up, and she was in the camp. The Sioux had got her and got her back in. She was in the camp when Sully attacked at the Killdeer Mountains. I don't think Sully knew that she was there at the time. But anyway, the Indians tried to use her to send notes into the Fisk wagon train to say that they wanted wagons, they wanted ransom, or you know, or she was trying to ransom herself. I'm getting a little ahead of myself,
Right,
excuse me. And she begged to be ransomed, but she warned them in the notes that she sent to Fisk, be careful, they will probably overrun you. And anyways, by that, well, Fisk got back to Fort Rice, and it told him that this woman by the name of Fanny Kelly is out here. So that's probably what kind of saved her life too, because the government put pressure on the Indians to release her.
Right, and wasn't there a spear with a note on it?
Yes, they sent out, they were assembled on the hills, the natives were assembled on the hills around the fort, and they sent out with a white flag and placed a pole out there with a note on it that was written by Fanny Kelly, and told who she was, and then Fisk didn't believe it at first, and then they brought her within sight of the fort too, that they could tell there was a white woman with them.
Wow.
And so that's quite a fascinating story there too. She was released in Fort Sully, which is north of Pierre, in December of 1864.
Sure. And I know right here, you can actually get this book about Fanny Kelly. It's called My Captivity Among the Sioux Indians. This is her story?
It's a very good read. It's an easy book, but it's a very interesting book, yes.
Right, because we can't get into every detail. There is a lot of history right here in Bowman and Bowman County. But if they could get to the museum here, there's all kinds of information.
And like we like to say, the rest of the story is here. The museum's full of a lot of the diaries that came off this Fisk expedition. There's a lot more to it that time won't allow here.
All right. Well, you're just going to have to come back to Bowman and get the rest of the story yourself. We can't tell it all here today, but I do appreciate you coming here and
Thank you
telling
for
us
coming.
that story. Yeah.
And welcome to
absolutely.
Southwest North Dakota.
Thank you. We'll be back after this on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Southwest Ag, Bowman County Development Corporation, Northwest Tire.
For decades, Nodak Insurance Company has been serving our state's residents in good times and challenging times. We come together for the greater good, from simple acts of kindness to company-wide efforts that make a difference in our community. It's who we are, rooted in North Dakota and ready to serve when it matters most.
See Sarah Martin, your agent with answers in Bowman. My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: RMJ Towing Service, Bowman Laundromat, South Main Lanes, Twin Buttes Liquor, Classic Beauty Salon. My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Consolidated Telecom, Farm Credit Services of Bowman, Silver Dollar Bar in Bowman.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, coming at you from Bowman, North Dakota. I tell you, I have learned so much this day that it's been amazing. Well, I started a few weeks ago. I want to welcome you back to the show because you talked earlier on the history of Bowman, but you are kind of the go-to person for the dinosaurs, and you have quite the history right here in Bowman County. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we're very lucky to be sitting right in the middle of a lot of area that produces dinosaurs and the very earliest mammals. So within about a half-hour drive of the museum, you can collect everything from 73-million-year-old plesiosaurs, which are like what you find in Loch Ness, all the way down to about 25-million-year-old saber-toothed tigers. So we have quite an arrangement, and in the middle of that is all the dinosaurs, of course. So we've got a large assortment of different things to find over different areas within a short drive of the museum.
So what makes the Bowman County or Bowman Slope so important? Like, how did that happen? What formation is it? And what makes this kind of the go-to place in the nation for such a lengthy history?
Well, we've been very lucky. I mean, the big thought process that took place here a couple of years ago, or over the last couple of decades, actually, it got started, was why the dinosaurs went extinct. Why did they live where they did, and why did they go extinct? Well, that particular point in time is called the Cretaceous Tertiary or Cretaceous Paleocene boundary. And we have it here in our backyard. It's one of the really nice places to go to take a look for science on why the dinosaurs died. There's a lot of places in the world that it should exist, but it doesn't. So this upper Midwest, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana is where it is, and that's where everybody comes. So we got started doing collecting here because it was basically in our backyard in 1983. And we started working with different museums and institutions to try to figure out the why and the how. And so one of the things that they looked for, and the reason that the dinosaurs died, was evidence that shows at that particular time that you can place it back to some event. Well, the catastrophic event that we've sort of clamped onto based on the knowledge that we have is an asteroid impact that took place in the Chicxulub crater in the Yucatan Peninsula about 66.5 million years ago. And one of the things that we find here are shocked quartz, which is the shock that actually took place during the impact that actually fractured quartz. Number two, we have the actual extinction of the dinosaurs, where you don't find any dinosaurs after this point. But one of the things that we have really here too is we have things called tektites. Tektites are when the asteroid actually hit in evaporate materials such as limestones and that type of thing in the Yucatan Peninsula. That was all sent up into the atmosphere. It coalesced and fell down to the earth in little tiny glass balls that are sometimes about the size of about a half of a pencil eraser or smaller. And you can actually date these glass balls right back to the asteroid impact, and we have them out here in the Badlands.
So when a person comes across these glass balls, like, at what point did they think, oh my gosh, this could have been from the asteroid? You know, to me, it looked like gravel. How did they find these glass balls?
Well, the scientists were looking for different things. And one of the things that they were looking for was iridium, because iridium comes from asteroids from outer space. And iridium was originally found in Gubbio, Italy, and it was also found in the Netherlands. And they actually started looking around for iridium, and we started looking for it here at the point when dinosaurs went extinct. And as a result of finding iridium, we were actually able to find, which you can't see, you have to send that to a lab. But in the process of sampling for that, we actually found the tektites and the shock quartz.
So what year would have that been, approximately?
The year that we found it here?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, we found them here probably in the late 90s. I would say like 97, 98 is when we started finding that kind of stuff here.
So very, very recent history.
Recent, yes.
When you talk about 73 million years ago, something was found 30 years ago.
That's correct.
Amazing. And so fast forward a little bit, because we can't cover 50 million years in 10 minutes, but we can cover some Cliff Note versions. How did we go from the dinosaurs to the tektites? And then you said that there are some more prehistoric animals in the area.
Right. After the dinosaurs died, of course, the small things that were looking for opportunistic environments, such as the small mammals, the crocodiles, the fish,
So why didn't they die? I didn't mean to interrupt, but why
Well,
didn't they die too?
The main reason that they didn't die is that their environment that they needed to survive was actually presented to them. They're detritus feeders, which is things that live off of dead or decaying. And so when the asteroid hit and all of the vegetation and everything was dying off, these animals basically had a feast. Plus they lived underground, they were small, or they lived in the water and were sheltered. So some of the fish, the crocodiles, the alligators, the mammals, that kind of stuff were in their environment that they liked. There was no competition anymore from the dinosaurs.
So the dinosaurs were basically a vegetative eater, and these are more of a scavenger.
Well, there were also meat eaters in the dinosaurs, but if the plant eaters die, then the meat eaters don't have anything to eat anymore, so they die as well. But the small things that started out were like squirrel size or mouse size, and when the competition disappeared, they actually grew to be the dominant mammals in the environment, which are what we have today.
Wonderful. So you had mentioned when we had done it, we kind of visited last week, about saber-toothed tigers. Were they in the area as well?
Yes, they were. Saber-toothed tigers were here as part of after the dinosaurs left, and fast forward about 25 million years, we started to get areas that had different mammals, and those mammals are things like rhinoceros, camels, saber-toothed cat. And so they became what you'd expect to find on the environment. And up to about 40 million years ago, there was nothing like that. These all evolved after even 40 million years ago. So we find them in sediments that are 25 to 35 million years old here.
And so tell us again what formation this is. Is it the Hell Creek?
The Hell Creek Formation contains the dinosaurs. Then you have the Paleocene Formation after that. And then the Eocene Formation comes after that. And then the Oligocene Formation comes after that, because it's all stacked on top of each other.
So I just want to say this, kids, if you're in college and you're going to a class or even in high school, pay attention to those eras, because one day you're going to want to know all about it. Dean, you have shared some fascinating information about this area, the prehistoric information, and it is so interesting. Can people come out here and look for stuff on their own, or is it all on private land?
It's some of it's on private land, some on federal, but the museum here runs day tours that people can sign up for, and field schools where if they want to come out and participate as a scientist or a paleontologist, give us a call and they're able to come along and join us.
And can schools sign up for some tours?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you'll accept a school from any part of the state, I assume?
Absolutely, any part of the nation.
Okay, so you heard that too, right here in Bowman, North Dakota. Bring a busload of kids and learn about dinosaurs. We'll be back right after this on Ladies of Another View on Back.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Pioneer Trails Museum, Dakota Community Bank, Bowman County Development Corporation.
Bowman County is a great place to raise our children. We have a great school system, and we have everything we need close.
We have a new airport, hospital, and business park.
You can really make a very good living working in Bowman County.
There's lots of opportunities for the kids in sports and different activities.
We have a little bit of everything I think a person would ever need. You can always find some place unique to explore.
My name is Taryn.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Josh.
And we love Bowman County.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Women's Way, Gooseneck Implement, Nodak Insurance of Bowman, Sarah Martin.
You know it, you love it, and it's back once again. Tire Fest. Northwest Tire is celebrating 14 years of Tire Fest. Get a $100 instant rebate when you purchase a set of 4 Nokian passenger or light truck tires, or get a $50 mail-in rebate on a set of 4 Toyo tires. Visit nwtire.com for details. Tire Fest in October is the best time of year to get your tires or get maintenance before winter and save money. Tire Fest 14. Hurry in, offers end October 30th.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: St. Charles Catholic Church, Bowman Chiropractic Clinic, Bowman Sales and Service.
welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I am visiting with Dara Steffen right here at the Pioneer Trails Regional Museum in Bowman, North Dakota. And I tell you what, this is one of the finest, nicest museums I've ever seen for a community your size.
Yeah.
I understand that Merle Clark is one of the original members that helped get the museum started.
Yeah, so he was a rancher in this area. He grew up in Slope County, and in 1992 he and a group of other community members got together and they really wanted to start a museum, so they worked really hard and got community support, and he actually helped a lot in starting the paleontology program. So he would go out and collect fossils and learned a lot about it, even though his training was in ranching and he was an amateur paleontologist. He really got the community involved in the paleontology department, as we're sitting in it, involved, and a lot of the collections were due to his work.
Right, and I know you have quite an extensive collection of bones and fossils and everything in this museum. Wonderful. And so the dinosaur behind us, is that something that was found right here in Bowman County?
Yeah, that was found on a local rancher. It's the Gunderson's Ranch, and we actually call him Gundy because of that. And this one is actually a cast of the original fossil because when it was found by commercial paleontologists. So they have the original fossil in Valley City, and but the landowner thought it was really important that the local museum got a copy of the fossil so that we had it on display here. So that's how we got Gundy, because of the generosity of the landowners.
So Gundy back here, every one of those bones was found, or did they have to kind of make stuff as they went?
Yeah, so with most fossils you don't find everything, because it's really hard to fossilize a full animal. It depends on how fast they get buried, or if with something as large as this, other things are going to want to eat it, and so it might get pulled apart. So to get a full mount like that, there's usually other like composite fossils. So you get a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and so this is a composite, but they did find a large portion of it on the Gunderson Ranch.
Great, and I know the whole museum, you have a lot of the Western heritage, you have the dinosaurs, you have all kinds of things, but there is a really interesting story right out of Bowman in 1917. Tell me all about Kate O'Hare.
Yes, so Kate Richards O'Hare was actually born in Kansas to a dad who really believed in socialist ideals. So she was raised under the principles of socialism. And as she grew up, she was a teacher, but then she got really involved with the Socialist Party herself. And in 1901, she went to the International School of Socialist Economy in Girard, Kansas.
Wow.
And that was, a school that was a 12-week program that emphasized public speaking and oration and debate and grammar, and that really helped her in her future going forward and the things that she did. And while she was in that class, she met her husband, Frank O'Hare. And after she met him, 4 days later, they decided that they were going to get married.
Well, of course. Who doesn't get married 4 days later?
Well, they didn't actually get married until until the class was over, but they decided that 4-day mark, we're going to get married.
Awesome.
And it wasn't until the United States joined the World War I, the Great War, in 1917, that she really started her campaign across the country talking about talking against the draft and against the Great War. And so that's what brought her to Bowman, North Dakota. Someone here, a town person, invited her to come. He believed that she would be really beneficial to come and speak here, and he actually sold tickets for 25 cents a piece.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would have the population been in 1917 in Bowman, just approximately?
About 2,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
More than what is here today.
It's a little bit less. We're about 2,500 now.
Wow, that's a lot of people out on the prairie when you think about, in 1917, how dynamic the community is.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's because of the 2 highways and a railroad going through?
Yep.
All right, so go ahead, pick up where you left off.
And so she was giving the same speech that she had given in 70 other cities across the United States. And this speech included this phrase: any person enlisted in the Army of the United States for the service of France would be used for fertilizer, and that is all that he was good for, and that any woman in the United States were nothing more or less than brood sows to raise children to get into the Army and to be made into fertilizer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a pretty inflammatory statement.
Indeed, especially when you think back in 1917 for a woman to make such a statement. That's a pretty bold move right there.
That is if she actually said it.
Okay.
So
it could be folklore.
There is a little bit of debate on that. She gave this speech in 70 different countries, or not countries, 70 different cities, and she had given it in Secret Service before, but she didn't get in trouble for it until she came to Bowman. And that's because there was a lot of other politics brewing under the surface here.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was a man named James E. Phelan, and he had moved to Bowman County and set up the First National Bank in town. And he was also married to a woman named Clara Lincoln, who the hotel was named after, and also the original library here in town was named after. So they're a very prominent family in town. And he was a very ambitious man. He wanted to round out his career by becoming a state legislator. But he wasn't successful in that, and people think that's probably because of shifting politics at the time.
Sure.
But he blamed someone else. He thought that there was another family in town called the Tottens, and they had a big feud, and they went back and forth, and the Tottens were actually accused of libel and charged with libel for saying he put his quote-unquote cronies in positions of power.
Because that never happens.
Correct.
And we just have just a couple minutes left,
Okay.
so tell us, she actually ended up in jail, didn't
She did, yes. So Phelan basically was trying to go after the Totten's wife, who was the postmistress in town, and Lillian Totten was seen at Kate O'Hare's speech. And so when Phelan couldn't get Lillian arrested, he was like, we're gonna arrest Kate because she said these things, and then it was this nationwide thing. She got arrested, and she was she was charged with sedition under the Espionage Act of 1917, and probably one of the first people to actually be charged with that. And she was sentenced to 5 years of hard labor in the Missouri State Penitentiary because there were no women's prisons at the time. And so she was released only after serving a year because everyone was so upset that this had happened. And when she was released, she worked towards prison reform because of the conditions that she was in during that year that she was in prison.
Wow, fascinating story, but you can learn more about that story right here in the Pioneer Trails Museum.
Yes.
Wonderful, so that gives you another reason to come to Bowman, North Dakota, check out all of the history. Dara, I want to thank you for telling that story.
Yeah, no problem.
Where can we find you? Do you have Facebook?
Yes.
Website?
Yes. You can find us at ptrm.org, and then you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your story. And we'll be back right after this with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Woodley's Construction Supply, Pro Point Cooperative, Pfeiffer's Auctioneers of Bowman.
Improve your home with better Wi-Fi. At Consolidated, we can provide you with a reliable signal throughout your entire home, beginning with a managed router and access points enhanced by an array of features. To ensure maximum coverage for all your devices, speed packages up to 1 gig, and our Consolidated My Network app allowing you to monitor performance, access parental controls, and more. Improve your home with better Wi-Fi by calling Consolidated at 483-4000.
Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Southwest Ag, Bowman County Development Corporation, Northwest Tire.
At Farm Credit Services of Mandan, we believe investing in a piece of North Dakota should be rewarding. That's why we offer the Ag Rate Advantage, a program to finance land purchases with low rates, no appraisal or origination fees, and cash patronage. Through the process, you'll also work closely with our experienced staff. Low rates, no fees, and cash patronage. That's the Ag Rate Advantage. Call Farm Credit today to get started.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: RMJ Towing Service, Bowman Laundromat, South Main Lanes, Twin Buttes Liquor, Classic Beauty Salon,
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Back. We have saved the best for last. We are talking to Taryn Dorr, and she's with the Bowman County Development Corporation. Yep. Welcome to the show, Taryn.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Bowman today. Like, why do people need to come to Bowman?
Well, I may be biased. I may be biased, but Bowman is a really, really great place for people to live, work, and we've got a lot of great things for people to do here. We've got a great business community. We've got a lot of great attractions like our museum, where this is today. Our library is a great amenity. We've got fun things to do for any outdoor recreation, whether it's going to the Bowman-Haley Dam or we've got a great hunting industry here, so there's lots of great things to check out here.
Right, and I heard that there's actually a four-wheeler side-by-side ride that you can go to a lot of the historic areas.
Yeah, our museum does a great tour with the side-by-side, so that's always something good to check out.
Great. Well, last time I was here, we visited a little bit about some of the initiatives going on Main Street, something like some art and some gardens. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so we were lucky enough to get selected for the Artists on Main grant that came from the Department of Commerce. So we had about 21 artists in our office that they brainstormed some ideas, and we actually had 6 projects get submitted for that contest, and we were able to award all of those. So we're really excited about seeing those projects come to life. People had a lot of great ideas, and that was a lot of fun. Our office also does a garden on Main Street, and we actually got an AARP grant to expand that site and add some seating, some color, and make it more of a place for people to enjoy and hang out.
So who plants the garden? Do people come in and plant their own little plot, or is this a city garden? What is it?
So we've got 4 raised beds in there that our office actually does the planting and the maintaining, and then it's open to the public to come pick the produce. I think in future years we might consider having more community involvement on the planting side too.
You know, I also heard about a splash pad that you guys are working on.
Yeah, so that's actually not our project. We did help with the initial funding on that.
But it's still Bowman.
It is. So it is a community challenge program that we run out of our office. So we will grant up to $10,000 to the winning community project. And so our first one was the splash pad, which will be coming, I believe, next year. And then we also had a gun range that came out of that program. So really excited. We're just trying to support other people's ideas through funding as well.
Great. So it gives a lot of different things for people to do when they get to Bowman.
Yes, it does. We're really excited about those being added as amenities that our community has to provide. And we look forward to that program more in the future.
You know, I just have to mention too, because I have family that are in high school rodeo, and we used to have to go all the way to Amadon for the gun event. And so now they do it right here in Bowman.
Yeah, it's tremendous. That committee has done an amazing job. They've raised a lot of money to get that project up and going, and we're really excited about it.
And you also have a project going on with the University of Mary.
So that is our main space, which is tied to our office. We are really focusing on business education, workforce education. So the University of Mary has come in, and we've partnered with them in teaching classes and building up our workforce. So that has been a great program the last couple of years, and we look forward to that more in the future too.
And then when I was visiting with another resident here in Bowman, they told me that there was a business, Love Exploration, actually donated $2 million for a daycare.
So that project, man, I'm not sure how old that was, 10 years ago now. But yeah,
Love got the oil boom.
Yeah, Love got their start here, and so they wanted to come back and do something great for the community. And so we were fortunate enough for them to donate funds for us to build a nonprofit daycare center. And that has been huge for our workforce, just having that childcare available. And they've continued to support it, and it's been a huge asset for us here in Bowman.
And another great thing I heard was somebody purchased the Shopco building, the community center.
Yeah, so we were really excited. Bowman Parks and Rec actually purchased our old Shopco building and is turning it into a really cool facility. I know they've been doing community surveys to see what the community wants to see in that building, and we are really excited about that for the future of Bowman.
Right. And so also you have a bowling alley, a movie theater. I mean, you guys have basically, it's a mini city.
We do. Our bowling alley was recently purchased. They've been doing some renovating in that, and they've seen a lot of increased activity. Our theater is such a huge thing. I know for me, as someone with kids in this community, it's so nice to have those assets here for your little kids to have something to do. Yeah, I enjoy an occasional movie, and bowling is a ton of fun too, so that's been great.
You guys also have quite the horse park or rodeo arena. Tell us about that.
So our fairgrounds is one of our biggest assets here in Bowman. People come from states all around to use our facility, whether it's the barrel racings that we put on almost every weekend. There's something going on out there. We host the North Dakota High School Rodeo Finals out there. We've hosted PRCA rodeos, you name it, it's been hosted out there. So it's a tremendous thing for our community.
That's great. I know that we've actually spent some time out there too. You have both the indoor and an outdoor arena.
We do. So we've got the indoor all seasons arena, the outdoor Dakota Winds arena, and then we've got our Four Seasons pavilion out there to host other events.
Sure. So if you wanted to tell our viewers, why should they come or move a family, come here to stay, play golf, why should they come here?
Well, just everything you just mentioned. Bowman is in a prime location for travelers, but also for people who want to live here. We've got great amenities. Our community takes great pride in making their homes look nice, their yards. So you can feel it when you drive into town, whether it's you drive up and down our main street or our Highway 12 and 85 corridors. There's great businesses. You can get what you need here. People are super friendly, and we've got jobs available if that's what you're looking for.
Right, and so I understand the one highway is actually called the Can-Am Highway. It goes all the way from Canada to Mexico.
Yep, so we've got the TR Expressway that runs right through town here.
Great. Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for joining us today and telling us about Bowman. And I also want to give a shout out to all of those that went ahead and sponsored the show, because we can't do it on our own. We appreciate that, and just come hang out in Bowman for a weekend or a day. You got all of the dinosaurs, you've got ranches, you've got four-wheelers, you can go bowling, you can eat, you can dine, play golf, do it all right here in Bowman, North Dakota. Absolutely. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time at another great location on Ladies of Another View on Back.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Consolidated Telecom, Farm Credit Services of Bowman, Silver Dollar Bar in Bowman,
For women who give their all for others every day, it's easy for self-care to get lost in the shuffle. Regular breast cancer screenings save lives. Take care of your loved ones by taking care of your health. Talk to your healthcare provider about a breast cancer screening today.
My Hometown in Bowman is brought to you in part by the following: Pioneer Trails Museum, Dakota Community Bank, Bowman County Development Corporation,